let's get ready to hop into it, shall we? Probably we'll just cut that out, but we'll see how it goes. See how I'm feeling later down the road, but okie dokie. With the short time frame we have today in mind, let's not pitter-patter around too much trying to get the run sorted here. I think I'm gonna go for an old tried and true of mine, Formicid Hunter, potentially of the Shining one. This is one of my favorite combinations to run in a 15 rune victory, so maybe we can make it all work here today. Let's give it a shot. And because I'm never quite as creative as I'd like to be, let's use a name that we must have already used in the past, but needs must and all of that. And we'll jump in with Anthony just to get the ball rolling here and see if we can get to a half decent spot in the limited time we have, shall we? So as always, we'll do our usual little setup routine here, of course. I'll even pick up all the talismans, though it's very unlikely we'll end up using those with this style of character. And last but not least, let's get that Mort file sent over, grab the seed, just in case any of you lovely folks are playing along at home and wish to see how you fare in the dungeon here, shall we? And okie dokie, with all of that sorted and out of the way, let's just jump right into it. I was hoping that this would lend itself well, I guess I should say this background would lend itself well to having a slightly more mindless day, and potentially some good success to go along with that, if at all possible. But we'll have to see, of course. We can get sorted with a nice ranged weapon early on here. I mean, I don't want to get greedy, but an artifact like longbow or something would be lovely. It's been a while since we had one of those right off the bat in the run. So one can dream, I guess. One can hope. Okie dokie. Kind of going along with the general trend of what I was mentioning here, with it being a slightly more straightforward early approach, I think that we'll have a very easy time in the first few floors of the dungeon, as well as even beyond that potentially, again, if our luck holds out. Oh, snake could immediately ruin all my hopes and dreams. Oh, especially if I'm accidentally starting to dig. Let's switch over that quiver. One of these days, I'll start a Formicid run without immediately forgetting that our quiver defaults to the dig status, but not today, I guess. And okie dokie, this could be a nice, an early faded altar. Plus all Fedhas and Hep. Unfortunately, 2 out of 3 of those options have already granted us a lovely victory in the past, so for the moment here, we'll just have to leave those by the wayside. And that is really unfortunate. +2 hat being our first thing. You know, we were asking for some decent luck here, and while that in some capacity fills the requisite materials, it won't do it here for good old Anthony, of course. But hey, it is what it is. Ooh, and I should be a little more cautious with a null pack as well. Kind of already forgetting with how smoothly this has gone so far. I completely forgot that a null pack on D2 is generally a little bit of a death sentence unless we get super lucky with our attack rolls. So at the very least, we'll pop back to the stairwell. And it's looking like we will have to just head the other direction for the time being, but that's not too much of an issue. Oh no, another magic hat? Oh me, oh my. Not working out the best for us here so far today, but that's fine. What I might actually do is just immediately head down. I don't really want to run into that null pack again. I mean, the benefit to staying here is that they're all using polearms, so relatively easy for us to pop out of there if and when we do run into them. But let's just head down a floor, get some good experience here, and then we can potentially return, you know, a hero in the making if everything goes according to plan. And for you, Robin, we definitely would like to limit the amount of exposure we have to you, you know, tossing your friends our general direction. That worked out quite well for us, fortunately enough. Love to see it. And hopefully that is just about the worst this floor has to throw at us. Wouldn't that be nice? Take it just a little bit easy here. We do have a stack of 4 scrolls, so I'm gonna try to be slightly better than I normally am when it comes to what I'm gonna do. When it comes to IDing things is what I was gonna say. And I ended up needing to do more digging than I originally planned, just rather based on the horrible pathing I decided to take. But that's a nice early way of countering the Orc Priest, of course, because as soon as we did see them pop around the corner, even just them by themselves at basically full health on our end, didn't go so hot, as the smites just deal a bit more damage than we feel comfortable with. You know, I thought the Phantom would be alright, and it did end up being the case, but had me slightly worried there for the moment. I mean, at the very start of the encounter, I was also concerned about getting teleported into Grinder's range, completely forgetting, of course, that we're a Formicid. We don't need to worry about that kind of garbage, and can instead just take it easy. I guess similar. Is Grinder as big of an issue? Formicid, maybe we'll be fine to quickly take them out. Except the fact that a fight against Jessica is going this poorly, maybe not the best indication, or rather it is potentially a very good indication that we will struggle against a large collection of the uniques here. But, you know, not having to worry about the paralyze does make Grinder a lot more feasible for us to take. I mean, the pain, 69% chance to succeed, still pretty dang rough. But at the very least, once we finish off this floor, we can potentially revisit our plans for the character here. Oh no. Okay, Natasha, I will take 1 life from you, but please take that as a word to the wise. Take that as a lesson in life here. I bet that's Natasha again, if I had to hazard a guess. So let's just pop through this door. Instead, oh, a door to nowhere. Right. In fact, quite a few of them. Fantastic. Doesn't seem like the most useful kind of option for the dungeon to include here, but hey, I'm not somebody who does dungeon renovations on a daily basis, so you know, maybe I just have to trust that Zot had a bit of a vision when they contracted that work out. I must just be missing something, of course. Okie dokie, let us head to the next stairwell. Do I think I could take on those gnolls now as well? Because this would be a half-decent time to potentially actually head back upstairs and take care of some business on that side of things. We are very close to at least attacking once per turn. Potentially what we'll do is we'll head down. Let's read some of these scrolls, since I had resolved myself to be slightly more dynamic, or I guess just in general a little bit better about this sort of thing, having our consumable options available. And you know what, having a fear scroll will definitely assuage some of my potential fears for the next while here. That is fantastic. Wait a second. Who the heck dropped this +2 cloak? I was apparently not paying nearly enough attention earlier on in the run, but I will gladly pick that up. And, you know, a nice 50% increase to our armor class won't go unnoticed. That is fantastic. Well, I'm glad that we didn't stick around with the gnolls. There did end up being a couple of them here that were not using pole arms, so that definitely could have been a bit more of an issue when we weren't feeling up to taking them down. Fortunately, able to do so now. No real issues, and we're good to go. Hi, Blork. Wand of Flame shouldn't be the worst fate to befall us. Fortunately, there's just a lot of damage that can come from Blork in general here if they start to get a little heavy on the spellcasting, especially if they haste first, then we might be in trouble. But let's roll the dice and see what happens. Fantastic. Turns out to be no problems whatsoever, but still always happy to slow things down a little bit. Just make sure that we're not leaping from the frying pan into the fire, as they say. Ooh, and if this could be potentially our economical temple, I would be very, very happy to see that. Oh, hello, Menkar. I did just pick up some fire damage, actually. So while I was originally quite concerned about how that encounter would go, when you have the mummy counter, I guess you can breathe a slight sigh of relief at the very least. Fantastic. I do believe that we left some ring mail up on an earlier floor, so that's something that we may be interested in swapping into at some stage in our journey. Hey Brain, how's it going? Hope things have been alright on your side of things here for the last while. Okay, back into here. You know, that's what I was slightly afraid of. In fact, we don't have many great escape options, so might have to just burn one of our consumables here. We can keep our Scroll of Fear around. Early game, the Scroll of Fear kind of reigns supreme. Butterflies, actually, I feel almost gets better once you get a bit later in the game. I mean, sure, lots of enemies have piercing attacks, so there's that to account for, but just the knockback effect on either a melee or a ranged character, I guess I should specify ranged as being non-magical ranged, it can be invaluable to have some kind of utility to just get an enemy off of your back, but I think for now, let's use up the butterflies. They will hopefully delay our scorpion friend there long enough that even with our mismatched speed, we'll be just fine to get the heck out of dodge. Beautiful. And did we have another stairwell somewhere? Okay, I was worried that we would run into Natasha again and have to potentially compromise on, you know, our moral standing and all that good stuff, but fortunately, does not seem to be the case. And what I will do is let's actively head back to this little room. It's not the temple, but it is who I was looking for. So we can get a nice early worship in with the Shining One, as long as I can survive against the twins here. And a short sword of electrocution. That's not exactly what we were hoping and dreaming for. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Well, let's get you kids circling around. I'm trying to think of who we would rather fight in their enraged state. A Berserk Devessa with an electrocution brand short sword seems like a pretty quick recipe for disaster. So maybe we actually do want to take down Devessa first, especially if we can do so while Down is still a little bit of distance from us. That's what I was hoping for there, at the very least. Well, you know how we were talking about saving our fear scroll for another emergency moment? I guess this is that moment. Ooh, and unfortunately, it doesn't quite do as much damage as our initial strike did against Devessa, but we're able to kill you. Perfect. And then I should just leave. I mean, at least Dowen is still just running, scared for their very life. Fantastic. You know, let's take on Grinder before we head back to our elf friend, shall we? Again, without Paralyze, we should be okay. There we go. Fantastic. Had me worried there for a little bit, game. Oh, I still don't want to run into our feline friend, of course. Well, let's... Oh, hello there, Natasha. You could please head another direction or just not see us. That works out great as well, actually. Fantastic. I'm glad we could come to a bit of an accord after all. And let's, I guess, take on this fight first. Then Enraged Owen is wandering somewhere about the level, ready to kick our teeth in, but hopefully we'll be able to take you. Throw Icicle when you're perma-hasted. I mean, you do only have 24 health. 60% chance for us to hit is, well, not great. Is maybe acceptable. It does just take a couple of hits. Oof. My big issue here is that we don't really have any good options for if and when this goes horribly wrong. So we could try to explore some more of this level and just hope that we don't run into Darwin. The unfortunate thing is that with their haste, they might be a little bit too quick on the draw. Okay, especially for a moment there, I thought they'd somehow sensed me despite all odds, but there we go. We can at least get our worship in, and for the moment here, let us actually just head towards these stairwells and let's say goodbye to D4, shall we? I mean, Eustachio we could potentially take on, but I'm not feeling so great about that Wild Down wandering the level, so let's just avoid them for now instead. Okay, our first ogre encounter could have also very easily have gone horribly wrong, but fortunately we're able to take them out. That's always like one of the very first kind of damage checks to see where you're standing and how things are looking. Ring of Evasion, now that's super handy for us. Immediately pop that on. Anything that supplements our defenses I think is going to be critical to our continued survival here, as well as I was very much hoping we wouldn't have to deal with any confusion, because confusion is a very quick way to reduce the effectiveness of any and all of our combat. Holy moly, there are three of you. Abrams, Locoroso, Balthazar. Balthazar as a gene name? That sounds like one of my characters. Don't recall the other two, but regardless, I guess it doesn't matter too much at the end of the day here, because I have no interest in visiting that vault for the time being. Let's instead just continue our wandering and our pondering as we make our way through the dungeon here today. We did, I guess, just fight that imp, so that is fantastic as the Shining One Worshipper. If we can get, you know, any number of undead or devilish enemies in the early game, that will definitely set us off in a pretty good spot for the future. Oh my gosh, we are getting spell books up the wazoo here. And good old Maggie. Well, my vainglorious friend. Okay, we're at least fairly good at resisting your mesmerize here. We do know that the next floor up is relatively safe, so we can go one more turn here. I mean, I'm almost hoping that Maggie does bolt of fire, because then at least they won't approach closer, and we have our escape plan, we have our out if and when things go horribly wrong. Unfortunately, this is where we have to make the call. Do we stand and fight and just hope that it all goes our way? I would like Maggie's armor. Acid Dragon Scales this early on would be huge for us. So maybe we do just risk it. You know, we have the evasion. Okay. Evasion is not quite making the effect that we'd like. To mesmerize to rage. Oh, that's actually huge for us, because I would have been screwed if we'd gotten enraged. Oh, and do you know what I actually should have done? Is I probably could have read the Scroll of Poison here and ensured that we kept that little bit of buffer space between us. Because turns out the scimitar way scarier than your magic. Who knew? And and you have a 43% chance to hit us even with our evasion here. Turning into a tree gives us some good defenses. The question is, do I just start smacking you now? Especially with Rage. With Rage, I could either switch over to the short sword, or the tree form also has some pretty solid unarmed damage. But let's try this out, and if we can maybe just get a solid hit in. Holy moly, we've done it. Okay, Lignification coming in to save the day. Nice and early on. Ooh, let's not take off our cloak though. My bad. That is fantastic. And see, I believe we'll be able to wear this without affecting our attack speed too much. You know, we still have the is slowed by your armor message, but still the same overall attack speed. It doesn't break us into another threshold there. So hopefully Maggie is about the worst that we have to deal with, and we can kind of leverage this into some success. Hey, hey Eric, how's it going? Missed the end of last stream, didn't go all the way. Unfortunately, not quite. We decided to endeavor in the bold move of venturing into Vaults 5 for our third rune, and unfortunately, the spells at our disposal didn't quite have the impact that I was originally expecting them to have. Especially kind of learning that Manifold Assault was nerfed slightly when it comes to unarmed attacks in particular, so we weren't really able to leverage that in the same way we have in the past, but hey, all part of the adventure here in DCSS. Ooh, and we do get some undead enemies.